All right, we are live back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. And Carter, a lot of things going on in the world.
Yeah,
How are
man,
you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. A lot of stuff happening in the sports world. Obviously, just been getting after it this week. I mean, how's your week been so far? Just
Good, good. Can't complain. Everything's in order.
good, man.
So yeah, outside of that,
Good shit,
nothing
man. That's awesome. Yeah,
too crazy. The weather is awesome. 72 degrees today up
yeah,
here in Fort Wayne.
yeah. I know today was wonderful. Yeah, dude,
So
it was like 70 here in Columbus. We had the dog outside playing some fetch, and just kind of hanging out. Went to the gym, got a workout in, and just been on the grind today. It's been good, man.
oh yeah. Always gotta like that. I'm lacking behind a little bit in the gym, so I'll get there when it all works
Bro, I'll
out.
tell you what.
So,
Yeah, my brother got me on this whoop band thing. Like he talked about it on his show, and he talks about it. And like, bro, if I miss a day, I feel like shit about myself because I go in the community, I see everybody else like getting after it. And I'm like, man, motherfucker, like I should have been there. Like I should have gone to the gym. So like today, I had to get up early and go help my mom with some stuff around her house. And then normally, first thing I do in the morning is go to the gym. Right. So like the past few weeks, it's been every single day except for like on the weekends when I have my kids. But today I had to go out to my mom's house early, so I didn't get there. And it was like in the afternoon after, everything that had gone on, I was like, man, I really don't want to go to the gym. Like if I don't go in the morning, it's really hard for me to go. And I got on the whoop and I saw like the dudes that were leading, and I saw my brother's workout from this morning. And I was like, nah, I'm going. I got to just go.
oh, oh yeah, because you got Zach doing nothing but talking shit all the time. Look what I did today. Because he's in the gym. He's in there a lot.
Exactly. Oh, bro, if I miss a day, he's on me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's
But
just the competitiveness, and that's what
yeah,
it
for
is
sure.
between siblings.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. But anyways, man, a lot going on. NFL, started their new league year. You can start signing people. A lot going on in the sports world. Let's get after it. Let's get to it.
all right, we'll start with the topic du jour. Russ Wilson, ex of Bronco Country, is a Pittsburgh Steeler. How do I
Yeah,
feel about this? I don't know.
that's fair. That's fair, man. I mean, I gotta tell you, as a Browns fan, I fucking love it. Like it's good. It's great. I think Russ is done. I think he's cooked. I think you let Russ cook. He's been cooked. He's done. It's over. But from the Steelers' perspective, you went out and got a Super Bowl winning quarterback for $1.2 million. That's all you have to pay him. And so you can spend all that money elsewhere. And I mean, he's still going to get his nearly 40 million because Denver has to pay the other part. But I mean, from a Steelers fan's perspective, I don't love going into the season with Kenny Pickett and Russell Wilson, but I love it a lot more than going into the season with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph.
That is a fair point. If they wouldn't have signed Russ, I think Rudolph would have been my choice at quarterback, and I think it changes the whole dynamic in that quarterback room because Omar Khan, like 3 days before, comes out and gives Kenny Pickett a vote of confidence. We're sticking with Kenny. We don't plan on signing
Yeah.
anybody, and
Mm-hmm.
that is
Bro, that's the devil's kiss, right? That's the vote of confidence is the vote of death. Like, hey, I promise you, I'm not taking that job at the Miami Dolphins. Nick Saban, 4 days later, Miami Dolphins head coach. Like every time somebody comes out and is like, "Man, this is my guy. We're sticking with him," you can almost guarantee a couple days later they're signing somebody to take that motherfucker's job.
oh yeah, it's it's I don't even I don't even know why the media interviews the GMs or front office people anymore because with this free agency, this opening of the league year, or almost opening, or today is the open of it, but with all the
Yeah,
signings and everything like that, I mean, you look at the Pittsburgh situation, and they they totally went back on what they said they were going to do.
mm-hmm.
I thought Fields was going to land there for sure, but he did not. And then the other,
He's in a bad spot, man.
yeah, I hate to see that for Justin. I don't know where his landing spot's going to be. I don't know where he's going to go. That is tough sledding on his part. And then the other Steelers signing is Patrick Queen, a linebacker from Baltimore.
That one I don't. Yeah, that one as a Browns fan, I do not like as much. I mean, I think Patrick Queen's a dude. I think he's really good. I know they have Roquan Smith, right? Is their other linebacker that's going to kind of take over the reins and be the guy going forward. So I know it's not a huge loss for the Ravens. I mean, he's still a good linebacker now. Like that dude can play. But I think that gives the Steelers maybe their best interior linebacker since Shazier. I mean, if you look at their defense, they're studs everywhere. Their linebackers have been decent and serviceable, but Patrick Queen, I mean, that's an almost all-pro level linebacker that they just brought in.
Mm-hmm. And I like the signing. It shores up the Steelers in the run game, and I also think that it frees up Watt more on the outside. I'm really excited about Patrick Queen, Russ Wilson. The going back on that topic, the reason why I'm so optimistic on the Russ side of things is because Arthur Smith took Ryan Tannehill to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. Now he had an excellent O-line in Tennessee, and he had Derrick Henry as his running back. Now Najee Harris is no Derrick Henry, and I haven't seen the Steelers do a whole lot to improve their O-line. And so, yeah, I mean, Arthur Smith might be the missing piece for Russell to reignite. And what's his tagline going to be? Come on, Steeler Nation, let's weld. Let's steal. What do you say?
No, don't even. After the Danger Witch and the corny taglines in Pittsburgh, we do not need that at all.
Oh, they're coming, man. Mr. Unlimited. Y'all got the corniest motherfucker to ever play quarterback. Like he's gonna be out there saying wild shit and doing high knees on the team plane. Like he's gonna be doing shit. And like, I don't know if you followed much of like what happened to him in Seattle and kind of after he left, how basically every teammate he's ever had came out and was like, bro, we don't fuck with Russ. Like that guy is not somebody we hang out with. That's not somebody that we liked. Like he produced on the field, we allowed it, but we didn't when nobody followed him. Right. And so that was part of the problem in Denver was nobody liked him. And he played better earlier, but you're bringing a real weird dude, a corny dude that people don't respect really as a man into one of the most like hard-nosed environments in NFL, right? Like the Steelers are built on fucking being a dude, being like a man's man, like being like, you don't go out there and talk. I guess a little bit with Juju Smith-Schuster. He was doing TikToks and stuff, so that got a little flamboyant. But I mean, most of the time, Steelers greats are quiet. They don't say a lot. They don't, they let their, actions on the field tell their story, right?
100%. Like Ben didn't say a whole lot.
No.
Bradshaw didn't say a whole lot. And for the majority of the early 2000s, all the top guys were on defense, and you never really got anything out of them.
No, like James Harrison in an interview, he was like, "Yeah, we play football. That's what we do." Like, and Troy Polamalu, I don't know if I've ever heard that man speak.
Yeah,
Head and Shoulders commercials.
Which it's strange because when Troy left the Steelers, he was mad because he wanted another year.
Yeah,
but he did have a comment about the NFL. He said, "Whenever I started in this league, it was men, and now it's a bunch of boys." And Russ is
and he ain't wrong.
Russ is going to be a divisive topic.
Yeah, he's going to bring in his media circus and everything that comes along with it. And when he was in his prime and he was winning games and running around like a madman, throwing bombs to Tyler Lockett and shit like that, like, okay, we'll deal with the circus. We'll deal with the weird. But if he's going out there throwing 3 picks and losing the game, you're not going to deal with him.
No, and I guess on the other end of it, Russ is not going to have to do a whole bunch in Pittsburgh if they can get an offensive lineman in the upcoming draft, and maybe get maybe figure out the O-line issues, and by that time, if they could.
Yeah, the other thing that they might do, they pick at like 12, right, or something like that. Might be even later, 18 maybe.
Yeah, somewhere in the back half.
So they're not going to get one of these wide receivers that you really want. So they're not going to address that in the first round. Hopefully they address O-line. You're not going to get one of the top tier tackles like Joe Alt. So it puts a little pressure on them, which they've done great at drafting historically. So I'm sure they'll find somebody that's going to be a dude. But I've heard it, flirting around that they're going to bring in another wide receiver. Maybe draft. You might be able to get Xavier Worthy at 18, and that would be somebody that opposite George Pickens. I could see that working. I just don't know. I mean, we'll see what they do, but they definitely need to add depth. They just lost Deontay Johnson, right? And so he's gone. So they're definitely going to bring in a receiver at some point and try to add some depth to that room. And they definitely need to bring in at least a lineman or two, because right now I think Najee Harris is a good back. I think he shows flashes of what he could be, but dude's running into dudes 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage on every play. So it's really hard to be good.
Yeah, he's been getting blown up in the backfield. They just point of attack blocking has been horrendous. I am trying to get a concrete number on when the Steelers pick.
Oh, gotcha.
And they picked 20.
20? Oof. Yeah, I mean, Xavier Worthy might be there. Some of those, lower end top tier receivers. Like obviously, there's not going to be Marv or Roma Dunze or anybody like that. But you could probably get maybe a Xavier Worthy if he falls that far, which he probably should, or some of the other next tier guys.
They got some projections here on who these guys are picking, and Graham Barton out of Duke, the 6'5" offensive lineman, could be somebody that they could potentially pick up. But I would almost think that they might go center, because they have struggled at the center position.
Yeah.
And
ever since Pouncey left, really.
Yeah. And some of the other shows say that Drake Nugent's going to be out of Michigan, is going to be the top center off the board. So we'll see what they do.
No, he was really good. I mean, he was really good at Michigan, so I like that pick. If he's there, I don't know. Centers are weird. They don't usually go very high. So he absolutely could be there at 20. I haven't watched the kid out of Duke really at all, so I don't know anything about him. But I love addressing the line in the first round for them. I think that's something smart to do, especially if you have a receiver you really like that you think you could snag in the second round.
Here's an interesting caveat. As I look at this mock draft, they got Bowers at 15 going to the Colts.
Okay. I think that would be a good pick by the Colts. I think Brock Bowers is going to be really good in the NFL. I mean, he obviously was a dude at Georgia. He was one of the best tight end. He was the best tight end in the country, in my opinion. And I think that's a great pick for the Colts. I think if he slips to 20 for some reason, I don't see the Steelers taking him, because they already have Freiermuth and they already have guys in that position. And there's other things that they need to address first. But if you think like if let's say Steelers have Brock Bowers on their board as the 10th best player in the draft, and you're sitting there at 20 and he's available, sometimes you do just draft the best available, and you deal with the needs through free agency and later rounds.
And one thing the Steelers do is that when I've been watching them for close to 20 years. Anytime that they make a selection, they make it as a group It's not
Yeah.
like, especially what's going on in Carolina. The coaching
Mhm.
staff wanted a guy, the front office wanted a guy, so it's just an absolute fucking mockery down there.
Yeah,
But
and that's even worse because it was, if I remember correctly, the coaching staff and the front office were pretty aligned. They all wanted Stroud, but it was the owner was the one that came in and was like, "No, we're taking Bryce." And
yeah,
anytime an owner steps in like that, especially an owner because he's a fairly new owner, right, in the
yeah,
NFL. Yeah, he doesn't. I don't care how much football he watched. He doesn't know it like the guys that work it every day, right? And so, as an owner, I hate owners like that. That think that all right, well, not think. It's true. They own the team. They can do whatever the fuck they want, but that use that power and rather think they know better than that they hired to do the job, right? And it's like everybody that I've heard, everybody in Carolina wanted C.J. Stroud, and David Tepper came in and was like, "No, motherfucker, we're taking Bryce Young. That's the guy." And I'm not saying Bryce Young won't be the guy. He obviously wasn't this year, but they didn't really put shit around him. They bring in Deontay Johnson, right, from Pittsburgh this year. Maybe they can shore up some things, get some things fixed. Maybe he turns into a good player. But I saw what C.J. Stroud did last year, and I promise you, Carolina would, or the Bears, I guess, would not be picking first if C.J. Stroud was their quarterback.
right. One more thing I'll throw at you on the Steelers draft is
Yep.
what about them picking up Keon Coleman in the draft? Because I think he'll be available.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just, I mean, I know he didn't run well at the combine, and so everybody's kind of cooled off on him because we're in the middle of fucking silly season where everybody cares about 40 times and not tape and what actually happened on the field. But I think Keon Coleman's going to be a really good NFL receiver. Um, I wouldn't hate if they took him at 20. I think he probably falls to the second round after his combine and everything. I mean, he's still got a pro day, and he can kind of fix some of that narrative if he goes out there and has a really good pro day. The problem is if the Steelers like him, they're going to take him at 20 because I doubt he's around at 52 or whatever they pick in the second round.
The reason why I would say Keon Coleman, he's a 6'4", 215 gazelle. Even though he didn't run great at the combine, I think it's always the chicken or the egg theory. I think that once you put him on the field in pads, that is a tough dude to tackle in.
For sure. Sometimes it's about taking the best player, right? Like if you think Keon Coleman's the best receiver available, take him. Other times it's about what's the best fit. And so they already have George Pickens, right? Who's a big receiver. He's physical. You already got that down. So maybe you think pairing him with somebody like Xavier Worthy, who's a small, fast guy. I mean, and I heard Chris Drew talk about it today. He's like, corners don't switch sides of the field anymore. Like there's nobody that's following George Pickens around, right? They're just playing their side. So if you can line George Pickens up on, say, Denzel Ward or whoever, and have him go at him strong for like the first two series, right? And this guy's just getting physically beat up by George Pickens, right? He's having to deal with it every play. And then you throw Xavier Worthy on him, and that dude's just running past you. And you got to figure out, you got to switch up how you're playing corner now because you got a different, like a change of pace, right? It's the same thing that people used to do, and they still do with running backs, right? You got your bruiser and your speedster, that kind of change of pace back that changes things up. And it works because it's hard for defenses to deal with one type of player and get used to it and then have to switch up how they're playing on the fly, right? And so that's why I like Xavier Worthy more so to Pittsburgh than, say, a Keon Coleman. But I think at the end of the day, get the best player. If Keon Coleman is head and shoulders a better receiver than Xavier Worthy, take him.
And I'll agree to that. And I think it's going to be an interesting time, this draft, because I think there's going to be a lot of deals made on draft day. Not day one, maybe, but day two.
I think you'll see a couple day one. But yeah, definitely. And I think historically, if you look at it, there's always more trades day 2 and 3 than there are on day one, because you're talking about, okay, people fall, people want them, so they're moving up to get them. You're talking about, okay, I can get this guy and I can package these 3 picks or whatever. Like there's always more days because those first round picks are so valuable that it becomes really hard, or first and second round really, that it becomes really hard to talk yourself into trading them unless you get a king's ransom for it, or you get the, whatever value you put on it. Like the Bears, if you offered them first round picks for the next 5 years for the number 1 pick, they're taking it, right? They're going to take that because Caleb Williams, maybe he's generational, but you might get 5 generational players with those 5 first round picks, or at least you got a much better chance of getting 1 than you do with 1 pick, right? So
yeah,
it's all first round, and some second round picks are just worth a lot more, so a lot less people are willing to pay it.
100%. I guess we will we'll change gears a little bit here.
Yeah, enough of this Steelers talk, man. I'm not here for it. All right. I hope they're dog shit. I hope they lose I hope they go 0-17 or 0-18 or however many fucking games they play this year. They can't keep up. But no. Let's move on to a better team. All right. What's next?
We got a comment here. Our guy number 11 says, "All I know is the Mud Dogs are gonna win the Bourbon Bowl this year."
Absolutely. Hey, you remember that time the Mud Dogs won the Bourbon Bowl?
Oh yeah. We will go to the big signing in Cleveland. Mr. Crab Legs himself gonna eat a dub. Jameis Winston. This guy, I was excited because now you can do it on this show. You just got to eat a dub.
Oh, I'll eat all the dubs. Don't you worry. Every week I'll eat a dub, especially if he's the quarterback that's playing. But hey, hopefully he's not. But
our guy Richie, if he's still in here, he's a big Bucks fan. Jameis threw 30 touchdowns this year, but he also threw 30 picks.
Hey.
So.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to call that the big signing in Cleveland. All right, we also got Jordan Hicks. He's a much better player than Jameis, but I know everybody wants to talk about it, so we can talk about it. I actually don't hate it. I think he's a goofy dude. I think he's funny. I think, and from what I've heard from former players that played with him, they love the fucking guy. Like, players that played with him go to war for that motherfucker. Like, somebody talks shit about him, they're like, hey, keep Joe Boo's name out your mouth, all right? This guy is beloved by everybody he's played with. Organizations love him. Like, there's got to be something to that, right? And his statement he put out, I'm all in. Let's go. He said, yeah, of course I want to be a starting quarterback, but that's not where I'm at right now, and that's not my purpose right now. My purpose is to go out there and make men better, and to go out there. And so my job is to go out there and help Deshaun become the best he can possibly be. And if something happens, he goes down and I have to step in, of course I'm going to be ready. But that's not what God's purpose is for me right now. And I love that. That's exactly the attitude you want, because you don't want some guy at the backup spot who feels threatened by Deshaun or who feels like he needs to compete with Deshaun, because there's no competition. Dude is getting $230 million guaranteed money. He's the starter until that contract is up, or at least they can cut him the last year and only take like a $60 million cap hit instead of like a $200 million cap hit. So I don't hate it. I personally would have rather probably had Jacoby Brissett for a similar number, because Jacoby was a great teammate to Deshaun when Deshaun was suspended for those 11 games, and he actually performed well. And if we were going to go out and spend $8-9 million on a backup quarterback, and I say we like I'm part of the goddamn organization, but if the Browns were going to go out there and spend $8-9 million on a backup quarterback, I would have preferred Brissett to Winston. But Winston brings something to the table. Like he's a turnover machine, just like Flacco. And everybody talking like, man, they didn't even offer Flacco. You couldn't offer Flacco. The city of Cleveland loved Flacco. And now you're going to bring him in, and Deshaun goes out week 1, throws 3 picks and loses the game. What's every reporter asking? What's every fan chanting? Flacco, right? So you just couldn't do it. And a lot of people are making that about Deshaun and saying, well, Sean's soft. He couldn't handle that. No, the organization didn't want that. Like, that's not good for anybody. Nobody wants that. And so I don't hate the signing. I know it's going to get headlines. It's going to be joked about because Jameis is out there stealing crab legs, even though he didn't really steal them, and eating W's, right? And he's goofy, and his speeches are sometimes a little, but it's not a bad signing. I mean, it's more money than I would have liked to pay him, but oh well.
We can just say he's misunderstood.
Exactly. Like I watched him on the Barstool podcast, whatever. What is that called? Pardon My Take or something like that.
Yeah,
I like the dude. I mean, he's a goofy dude. He's goofy in a totally different way than Russ Wilson. That's what I'll say. They're both goofy, but they're like opposite ends of the spectrum of goofy, right? Like sometimes you have that goofy, corny guy that's just like, bro, I can't stand this guy. And other times you got that goofy friend who's like, bro, he's goofy, but I fucking love that guy. Right.
You have what you would call a great locker room guy. Russ is not a great locker room guy.
No.
Him and PJ Fleck, I guarantee you, would get along.
Who, Russ and PJ Fleck?
Oh yeah, PJ Fleck would be
sure.
his guy.
Yeah, I agree. They seem like they're cut from the same cloth. Like they're just goofy, like kind of car salesmen. Like they're trying to be something that they're really not. Like Russ talks like he's this inspirational, motivational speaker, like type of guy, and it's like, bro, it's not authentic. It's fake, and people can see through that shit so fast. And you bring a fake fucking ego into an NFL locker room of men, of fucking just jacked up, testosterone filled, hard fucking dudes. They're gonna not. They won't respect you at all. Like that's not what people don't respect that.
Oh,
but
no.
and
they see right through them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Jameis comes in and he's just his authentic self. Like he's just a goofy dude. He's funny. He likes to have fun. He likes to even when he's serious, it's like an undertone of comedy, right? It's like bro's being serious right now, talking about like we got to go out here, we got to eat these W's. It's like, bro, that's funny, but he means it. Like he wants to go out and fucking kill people, and I like that.
And there was that play in New Orleans when they were up by like 15 or 20 or something like that. Right? He threw a full bomb. Like, give me that guy.
Yeah. Or no. The one at the end of the year when they were supposed to take a knee at like the 2-yard line, and Buddy walked into the huddle and was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to take a knee. What do y'all think about giving Jameson the ball or giving what's his name Williams, right? Yeah, giving him the ball and letting him get a touchdown. That way he gets his finally." And everybody in the huddle, at least according to him, was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so he overruled the coach and just went out there like backup quarterback, like, "Nah, coach, we're not kneeing it. I need to get my boy a touchdown." And like players respect that. Like, bro, you're gonna take some heat for this, but let's do it.
And also, this is a little off topic since we dived into the incentive part of contracts. It's wild because on the Long Brothers, I don't know what their podcast is called, but I seen a couple of clips where he was his brother Jake, the offensive lineman, I think his name was talking to Kyle, and he was like, "Oh, weren't you on the line for hitting an incentive in your contract?" And I'm just like, a lot of people that do the gambling out there need to read those incentives in those contracts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Tom Brady's famous for it. He would always make sure his guys got their money. Like Gronk got pulled out of a game at the end of the year, and I think he needed one more catch to hit some kind of receptions bonus. And Tom Brady went over to the offense coordinator. Was like, "No, Gronk's coming in. He's playing." And he threw him the ball on one play. He got his catch, got his bonus, and got him the fuck out of the game. He's like, "Nah, listen, we're gonna run this play. I'm gonna hit Gronk. He's gonna catch it. Like he's got $750,000 on the line. He's catching the ball." And like Tom Brady is famous for that, and that's the type of guy Jameis Winston is too. Like, buddy, you need 20 yards. All right, listen, we're gonna hand it off to you 4 times in a row. Let's get it.
Right on, and we'll change gears again. Calvin Ridley to the Titans, 4 years, $95 million. Did the Titans overpay? Is this a good signing?
I mean, so what is that? It's a little bit less than $25 million a year. I mean, that's a lot for somebody that went on a year suspension. He didn't play a whole lot last year, like at least like he looked all right at times. So you don't. I'll tell you. I'll compare it to this. You're doing what Cleveland did with Deshaun Watson. You're paying somebody. Now Cleveland was a more extreme case, but Cleveland was getting Deshaun Watson, who is a better, like if you compared the two on their trajectory in their career, Deshaun was easily a top 10 quarterback before he, in 2020 or whatever season it was, before he sat out because he didn't want to be in Houston and then sat out because he was suspended. So Cleveland was getting a better player as far as what their ceiling had been. But Calvin is a good receiver, but yeah, I would say they overpaid. I mean, right now you're talking about highest paid receivers in the game are getting like 30 million, and you're paying a dude who you're not real sure what he's going to be 25. I think that's overpaying, but I don't know what the market was. So maybe that's what the market was, right? Maybe he had other offers in the 20 to $24 million range, and they felt like, okay, if we can give him a little more guaranteed money, get him at 24, whatever, it'll be worth it. But I don't know. What's their quarterback situation? They ran with Bill Levis, or?
Yeah. We'll flip-flop these two topics, but they just signed Mason Rudolph, I believe, today, and
yeah,
I'm going to assume Mason is going to be the backup, and you have Bill Levis. And also in the chat, Richie chimed in and said that Calvin Ridley's 30.
Is he really?
So,
how long has he been in the league?
I'd have to.
He must have been old for college or something, because he's only been in the league a couple of years. I thought like 4 years, maybe.
I am going to get you an answer on that right now.
But yeah, I agree. If he's a 30-year-old receiver and you just gave him 25 million and he hasn't played meaningful football in 2 years, that's a little bit like giving Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed dollars when he hadn't played football in 2 years, and he was much younger than 30.
Oh yeah, it's wild that they're throwing out these huge numbers on the wide end side of things.
Well, that just tells you about the market, right? There's no receivers out there, man. Like, you can't go get a number one right now. They're not available. Teams don't give them up. Teams franchise tag them or whatever they have to do to keep them. You're not going to go out and get Jamar Chase on free agency. Like, that's just not going to happen. You can't get those guys. You have to draft them, or you have to severely overpay, which is another topic we could talk about with what I've heard going on and heard rumored. I don't think it happens, but about Justin Jefferson going to the Bengals.
I was on a space a couple of nights ago with JB and some other guys, and that topic did come up. I was hearing maybe Cincinnati for Justin Jefferson, but I also heard they might move T. Higgins to Buffalo.
And get what back? Just picks?
That's what I'm thinking. And also Calvin Ridley turns 30 in December.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's an aging receiver. Like, receivers don't play much past 30. Like, you're not getting a Tom Brady at receiver that's playing at 40 years old. Like, he's got maybe 5 years left, and you're going to pay him $100 million over 4 of those years and hope he's still what he was at one point. Like, I don't love it.
Yeah, and this is a little off topic. Since we brought up T. Higgins, T. Higgins might be on the move, and then they got rid of the Joe Mixon as well in Cincinnati. So
yeah, well, I knew that was going to happen. Joe Mixon took a discount last year to stay with the Bengals because he thought that was the Super Bowl year, right? And you can't get a guy to take discounts every year who's aging and needs to make, like, Joe Mixon had to go get the most value he could get, right? Because he's only got a couple years left. He needs to make his money and get out. So I knew that would happen. There's no way. He took a pay cut last year to try to win a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow got hurt, didn't work out. Okay. So him leaving wasn't shocking, or him not being retained, whatever it was, like, wasn't shocking to me. I did think they'd make a bigger push for somebody a little higher level than Zach Moss, but I mean, the market was tough for running backs. They weren't going to pay somebody Saquon money. Like, they weren't about to pay somebody $12-14 million a year to come in. They weren't looking to get older at running back, so they weren't going to go get Derrick Henry. So they get Zach Moss, who I believe is a couple years younger than Joe Mixon. And you hope that he could be enough, because really with that offense is going to look real different, right? You got Burrow and Chase. They're there. Tyler Boyd's gone. I don't know. T. Higgins doesn't want to be there. I don't know if they move him, but he doesn't want to be there. And I think if they don't move him, he's going to sign the franchise tag. He's not going to sit out a year and lose that money. So best case scenario, you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Burrow. Those are your three main contributors on offense that are coming back. You lost Mixon, you lost Tyler Boyd. Your tight ends were a shit show last year anyways. And then you brought in, who they bring in? Geinke or whatever, the old tight end from Miami, who's an aging tight end that hasn't been productive for a couple of years. So you didn't really improve the tight end position. That offense is going to look real different. But you're betting on the fact that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are good enough with whoever the fuck you put out there to get it done. And maybe they are.
Burrow's got to I think he's got to push real hard to get into that Mahomes territory, because you've got the AFC is loaded. They're top heavy.
Loaded. Yeah. And the thing is like Burrow didn't get it done when he needed to. And I don't mean that as a slight to him. I just mean like he had a window, and I understand he thinks that the Super Bowl window is open his entire career because he's that good. And I love that confidence, and I don't disagree. But he had a window these past couple of years where he had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon. Supporting cast was there, right? And what Mahomes did different is he got it done in that window, right? When they had Tyreek, when they had Kelsey, when they had all the players. And so Joe Burrow's entering into the second window of his career, right? And Mahomes proved he could get it done in window one. Now he's proven he can get it done in window 2, 3, whatever, because he can win with whoever the hell's out there. Joe Burrow is going to have to prove he can win with whoever's out there without proving he could win with a better supporting cast. Like he won, he went to a Super Bowl. Like, I understand that, but he didn't win the Super Bowl, and then he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So it's going to be really tough for him to get into that Mahomes class of the AFC, because I didn't see him do it when he had all the pieces, right? Like, his offensive line was trash, and I know Kansas City's offensive line in Mahomes' early year was better than that. But now, yeah, I mean, he's got to prove it, and the only thing he needs to prove this year is that he can be on the field for 17 games. Prove to me that you can stay healthy, and we'll start paying more. We'll start doing what we need to do. But if I can only get 8 to 10 games a year out of you, bro, I'm not paying receivers. I'm not doing that, because I need to make sure our defense is great for when the backup is in.
100%. And I think Cincinnati is close. They're close to breaking through to get to that next level. I just hate to think that they're going to lose out with having Burrow, even though they have him locked up for the long term. But if he has no weapons, he's useless.
I agree.
Reminds me a lot of Miami and Marino.
For sure, yeah. That's a solid point. And that Dan Marino talked about that during the Super Bowl week. He was on a show here locally in Columbus, and he talked about that. He said, I got to a Super Bowl early in my career, and I thought when we lost it, he was like, I was so young, and I was like, man, I'll get back to like 4 or 5 more of these. But he never got back to a Super Bowl. He's widely revered as the best quarterback to play the game, and he never got back to a Super Bowl, because you can't do it with just a quarterback. Now, you need a quarterback to do it at all, but you need pieces around him. And like Mahomes, he doesn't have the same pieces. Like, he doesn't have a Tyreek Hill, that's for sure. But he's still got Kelsey. and they've found pieces that they can plug and play to make it work, right? Which is, I guess, what Cincinnati's hoping, right? You're going to keep Jamar Chase and then hope that you can find pieces to plug and play, and Joe Burrow is that guy. It's just, it hasn't been seen yet, so we'll see how it looks.
And to add to that, it's tough because when you have a generational player that is Mahomes, and you got probably, I would say now the best coach in the NFL, Andy Reid has been knocking it out of the park. They've been drafting well. They've been getting guys to step up and fill in, and they let Tyreek walk, and that's what it is. I think that they have something really special in Kansas City. They have Steve Spagnuolo calling the defense. They just they just re-up Chris Jones. So
they got Chris Jones, which was a big piece. That was a question mark last year, and they were able to get him to come and play, and then they gave him a deal, and that's what they needed to do. That defense needs to be solid for Mahomes, because there's going to be days and there's going to be games that he can't go and win it by himself, right? Because he doesn't have those same weapons. The defense was really the reason that they made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl this year. Mahomes obviously was great and had to make something out of nothing, but it is what it is. We'll see what Joe Burrow does with it, and we'll see what the Bengals do to try to give him enough talent around him, because they're not going to have Tyler Boyd and probably not going to have T. Higgins, and they definitely don't have Joe Mixon.
Yep, and we will see how it pans out in Cincinnati. Moving on to another topic, Michael Thomas set to be released June 1st. Where does Michael Thomas land?
I mean, selfishly, bring his ass to Cleveland. Let's go. Buddy is a bona fide baller. Now, he can't stay healthy, which apparently Cleveland loves to overpay for dudes that can't stay on the field. So why not do it again? But no, I don't think Cleveland will do it. They just got Jerry Jeudy. They're not going to go out and get another guy like that. Where does he fall? I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him with a quarterback. I'd love to see him with somebody like Josh Allen. Put him in Buffalo. Let him go opposite Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Or Gabe Davis isn't there anymore, right? He signed somewhere else, I think.
Yeah.
But put him in Buffalo. Put him in Philly. Put him somewhere that he can compete, and somewhere that, because I don't know him well enough. I've met him a couple times. I don't know him, what his passion is. But I feel like part of the reason that he can't stay healthy, and part of the reason that he's been kind of lackluster the past few years, is the Saints have been dog shit. I don't know. I remember watching Joe Hayden when he was in Cleveland. He was a superstar, top 3 corner in the league. And every year, towards the end of the year, he would be hurt. And I'm like, yeah, but are you that hurt? Or is it that we're 0-7 and you don't really want to play that bad? Because why? Right? And so you put him on a team with some supporting cast, put him on a team that has a chance to go win a Super Bowl. I don't know that motivates him. I don't know what his, why is, or why he's playing, other than I like making money and this is a good way to do it. But I think if you put him on a team like that, maybe you see a resurgence from him. Put him on a Philly, a Buffalo, Kansas City, even, somebody like that. Give him a quarterback that you can trust, like a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes. Hell, put him out in LA with Hairball and let him be a guy for Herbert. I don't care. Just give him a quarterback. What I don't want him to do is go somewhere like Oakland or Minnesota or wherever, where there's bro, their quarterbacks are trash. You got Sam Darnold. Okay, well, you're fucked.
Yeah. I think he personally ends up to the Rams.
Okay, I like that too, because you got Stafford at the end of his career, but he's still slinging it. He can still play a couple more years. I like that.
And then another topic. Oh, well, I'll stuff these two together. Odell Beckham set to be released, and Joey Bosa has a $7 million roster bonus coming up. Do the Chargers cut bait on him, and does Odell have a landing spot?
I'll answer them backward. Yeah, Odell will get picked up somewhere. I don't know what for, and I know that's part of the reason he wasn't picked up at times in his career is that the market wasn't what he thought he was worth, so he didn't sign. I think that was the year he went to the Rams and played in the Super Bowl. He didn't sign until later in the year, so I wouldn't put it past him to wait and just see kind of who needs an extra piece. He wasn't great in Baltimore, but he wasn't terrible. I mean, he had some flashes of kind of old Odell, right? So I definitely think he gets picked up somewhere, probably on a smaller deal than he hopes. I don't know where he goes. Probably a contender that just wants an extra weapon. And then as far as Bosa, I don't know I know their cap situation is not great. I think they're in the red. They have to free up some space. So that would make sense that they move on from him. I think they don't want to. I wouldn't want to. And I think they would much rather trade him, right? Because that would be they'd get something for him instead of just cutting him. And I also don't know what his contract looks like as far as the cap hit if they cut him. Right. Like I know they got a $7 million roster bonus, but what's left in his contract that they would have to pay out? Because that's also part of the deal. Like, is he gonna be salty about it like Russ was and go sign for a vet minimum deal and force you to pay the maximum amount on the contract? If it's not a huge cap hit, then yeah, I think they probably cut him or especially if there's not much of a trade market for him, is because he's on an expiring deal. But I think Harbaugh probably wants him to be there. I mean, he's still a good pass rusher. He's getting a little older and he hasn't been as effective as he was when he first got in the league, but he's still a good pass rusher. You pair him up with another decent pass rusher. Like, look at what Myles Garrett did for, Zadarius Smith and Jadeveon Clowney in their first years, right? They both had solid years as a second tier pass rusher. Which is what I think Joey is at this point in his career. Is he's not going to be your main guy if you're on a good defense, right? So if he goes somewhere that doesn't have a pass rusher, then yeah, he's going to be the main guy, and but teams aren't going to double team him like they do Nick or like they do Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. But so yeah, I think they cut him, or unless they can find a way to restructure his deal and he's willing to kind of take a little bit less money to stay with them for a little bit longer.
I don't think he restructures. I think he's either going to get traded or he's going to get cut. And the landing spot I would have for him would be, why not call up Michael Thomas and land in San Francisco?
Do they still have Chase Young, or is his deal over?
I don't know if his deal might be up, but I think it's going to be hard for him to get re-signed in San Fran. And I think if Joey Bosa wants to come, I think that's an older Joey Bosa is an upgrade over Chase Young.
I agree with that. I just, if the contracts are comparable or anything like that, yeah, you take Bosa. But so yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate that. You go team him up with Nick, and Michael Thomas can go out there and be, Brandon Ayuk's second fiddle when Debo's in the backfield or whatever. I don't hate that. I don't know how much cap space they have, so I don't know if they can get it done, because Joey's still going to want to be paid as much as possible, obviously, but he's not going to demand, top tier edge rusher money, I don't think. And if he does, he's not going to get it. But I think he's still going to demand a decent chunk of change, where I think Chase Young would be a cheaper option. And I don't know if they have the money to do either, or if they have the desire to do either.
I agree with you on that. We're almost closing in on 8:00. Last topic. We fit everything in rapid fire style. Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans both re-sign in Tampa.
Hey, you got to love that. You got to love that. I mean, Mike Evans, for sure. You love that. You didn't want to see him go somewhere else. He's still, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if he did this year, but he's still gone over 1,000 yards in every season he's played in. So that guy's a proven number one receiver. Baker looked good last year. Like he had flashes. And he definitely, he took him to the playoffs, led him to a victory. You can't. unless you're getting the top tier guys, like if they were going to go get, and I don't even know who I'd want over Baker that was a free agent, right? Like, I mean, maybe Kirk Cousins, but I don't know. Baker's younger. Baker's looked all right. But other than that, there weren't many options for him, right? They aren't picking high enough to draft a quarterback. They're not in the market for Kirk Cousins or anybody like that. Like, they're not going to pay whatever Kirk got paid, 4 years, 180 million. So 40, they're going to pay that, especially for somebody like Kirk. Like, if they could go out and get, and I know Justin Fields has talked about, I like Baker over Justin right now. Like, Baker's looked like a better quarterback. He's been to the playoffs twice with two different teams and led them to victories. So I don't hate it. I think they paid him a bit for what he is, but that's the market of quarterbacks, man. You're not getting a quarterback for less than 30 million anymore.
Right.
So
And
I don't hate it at all. And I'm a Baker fan. Like, I still love Baker. I think his time in Cleveland was fun. I don't kill the front office for wanting to move on from him, because things were contentious and things weren't, and he had like one really good year or one good year. His rookie year, he had a solid showing. Second year, he sucked. Third year was the year he went to the playoffs and won, and everybody was on the Baker train, and he was doing Hulu commercials and Progressive commercials and everything else. Fourth year, now I know from on good authority, he was hurt all year. Like, his shoulder was not right the entire year. And I've heard conflicting stories on if it was the coaches that were like, yo, you got to play, or if it was him like, no, I'm good, I can play. Because that fourth year, he was playing for his contract, right? So if he didn't play, I think he knew, I'm not getting an extension. I'm not getting a contract. I might get my fifth year option picked up, but that's it. And so I think he felt the obligation to go out there and play. He didn't play well because he just wasn't. I think he wasn't seeing things right. I think he was not all like. I think he was all in, but I think he just wasn't there completely. And then obviously physically, I know he was banged up, and so he couldn't make all the throws he's used to being able to make, and so that led to higher interceptions and everything like that. But and then he goes on to Carolina. It doesn't look good there. Goes to the Rams, has a magical moment week, first game there, and then doesn't really do anything. And then he gets a chance in Tampa. And I mean, he went to Tampa, and all the reports were he's, battling for the starting job, but he's being brought in to be the backup. And then he goes out and he wins the job. And he looked decent. He looked better than, I don't know, so 32 starting quarterbacks. I know they ended up having like 60 starting quarterbacks because of injuries, but of the 32 week one starters, I'd put them top 40%, top 50%, something like that, right? And so at that point, it's hard to move on from that because you don't know what you're going to get. You could maybe trade for Justin Fields, who was not in that same realm last year, or you can maybe go out and overpay for Kirk Cousins, who's 36 years old, coming off a torn Achilles. Other than that, what options were there?
You got old man Joe, and that was it. Really?
Yeah, exactly. And I did see it come down that the Colts signed Flacco, a 1-year deal. So he's got a home. He's not there to be the starter. I know that because they still Anthony Richardson. They just spent a 4th overall pick last year on him, so he's the guy. So there was no place that Joe Flacco was going that was even considering him be the starting quarterback. So Tampa wasn't going to do that.
So,
but
yep.
And I see Richie in the chat said 10 straight 1,000-yard yards receiving for Mike Williams. So yeah, you don't give up that dude unless you're in full rebuild mode, which clearly they aren't. They brought him back and they brought Baker back because they think they can win the division. I don't know if they think they can win a Super Bowl with Baker. I'd be surprised if they did think that, but
yep. And it is 8:00 on the dot, and we are out of topics. And it is the Andre Duke Show. Carter, thanks for joining me. Everybody out there, hit the like and subscribe, and that's that.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thanks for having me again. I always enjoy jumping on and chopping it up with you, man. So anytime.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
All right. See you.
See you.